We're joined by Ann Coulter. Ann, this is a week that I would call a target-rich environment for someone like you. I mean, where do I begin with you?
I know, and I'm busy with social distancing dinner. How am I going to have our dinners? How am I going to have time to read all this stuff? I did read some of the DOJ's motion to dismiss the prosecution, and it is unbelievable how they went after Flynn. Comey, what a disreputable individual. I think, I mean, it is like something out of, a Hollywood movie on the South in the 50s. We should have an Inherit the Wind. The way these prosecutors just aggressively fixated on Flynn and this nutty idea of Russian collusion and wouldn't let it go.
Yeah.
I think part of the key is just the utter boundless self-righteousness of James Comey.
Yes. The smug sanctimony, it's overbearing sometimes, all the time, actually. And, if there is any justice and if there is an honest media or honest historians, J. Edgar Hoover will, be put up on Mount Rushmore if there is one for the FBI compared to this guy. I mean, Comey literally is the biggest disgrace ever to come out of that agency.
Yes. Yes, he reminds me of that, not a prosecutor, but that Joe Wilson. Remember the one who went to Niger and they assured him that they weren't selling yellow cake to Iran.
Yes.
It's very dangerous to be self-righteous and to enjoy the attention and praise from the media so much. It never leads to anything good. I do wish that more people were watching MSNBC right now. It is completely hilarious how they are reporting a very sad development for them. What's noticeable, my rule, you may have heard me give it before, is when the details help them, you'll get the details. You're not getting details if the details do not help them. You could watch MSNBC without stop from the moment the motion was made, and you would have no idea exactly what it is Flynn was accused of, what the crime was, what he pled to. All we're getting is denunciations of the Attorney General, the most corrupt Attorney General in world history.
Wow.
And I know other people like to go back to Eric Holder. My favorite is always Janet Reno, who gunned down all those kids at Waco.
Yeah. By the way, I have not watched it yet, but I know that you were, Waco was a big part of your political profile at the time and informed a lot of your opinion of the Clinton administration, such as it was. Have you watched this Netflix docudrama about Waco? Because I'm told it's actually quite excellent.
No, I haven't. I haven't. Thank you. That's a good tip.
Yeah, it really does tell the story, at least as good as Hollywood can. I'd love you mentioned lockdown, you mentioned social, distancing and all that jazz. Can you explain to me something here? Because you're much smarter than I am, and you focus on New York politics a lot. I know. Why is Andrew Cuomo still getting good grades? Or why are people still lionizing this guy and sanctifying him as if he's the greatest leader in our nation? Because he seems to be the root of pretty much every bad development of this virus.
I know, and I find it hard to believe that people are really enjoying hearing about his meatballs so much. Just a little too much, personal information. He's like a CNN host where half the show is them complimenting one another's ties. Could you get on with it? Because otherwise I'm switching back to Seinfeld. I suspect part of it has to do with, as I described in that magnificent book, Demonic, it's part of mob behavior to idolize their political leaders or the people they favor and absolutely demonize those on the other side, which you don't really see on the right wing. Not to as much of an extent. I don't think anybody, maybe Sean Hannity, but most people didn't hate Obama personally. We didn't want to lose our health care.
Yeah.
But most of our venom, I think, was really on the media, not Obama per se. But, Nixon, Joe McCarthy. Remember Bush constantly being burnt in effigy and movies? Sure. Award-winning movies fantasizing about the assassination of President Bush. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
And they do the same thing on the other side. There were articles in places like the New York Times of liberal women fantasizing about first sex with Clinton, then sex with Obama, now sex with Cuomo. It may be the women taking over the Democratic Party, and then of course the third element is that the alternative is Joe Biden.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think you probably should have led with that. And thank God they're not fantasizing about sex with Joe Biden, because that would be a bridge too far.
Necrophilia.
And Coulter, you know that we don't subscribe to this paradigm of political correctness or political incorrectness. However, by means of description, just so that people can sort of properly visualize it, I would argue that some would call this week's column about Chinese culture and the Wuhan virus as somewhat politically incorrect. You kind of go there about the differences in our culture.
It's kind of important, since we keep getting viral pandemic after viral pandemic from these wet markets. I only have so much word space. Many wonderful things about the Chinese. Don't mug us, very hard workers, but they do eat disgusting animals, and scientists have been and serve them in disgusting ways. I know a lot of your listeners are aware of this, but yes. The reason I brought it up this week was this Chinese lab theory. It escaped from a lab. I think is just, okay, we don't know all the facts yet, but I gave, 7 reasons that it is highly unlikely this escaped from a lab. No, it's from the Chinese wet markets, and I just feel like, well, for one thing, before we were born, I think there were a lot of right-wing conspiracy theorists. At least I've heard about it, I've read about it. In my lifetime, 90% of the whack job conspiracy theories, including Russia, have come from the left.
Yes.
And I hate seeing right-wingers go into bad habits. No, it came from, well, I can't say this absolutely, but I'm pretty sure it came from the wet markets. Scientists have been predicting it forever. The arguments that it escaped from the lab fall down on the slightest examination. So that's why I was concentrating on the wet markets. Right. We ought to be concentrating, and I mean the United States of America and the entire rest of the world. Our objective, when this is over, or maybe starting now, should be shutting down the wet markets the same way after 9/11 it was shutting down Al-Qaeda training camps. That's what we need to focus on.
And let's stop doing business with countries that have cultures that not only permit this, but encourage it and don't do anything about it after, as you document, virus after virus after virus after virus originates from that same place. The fact that their excuse, like their get-out-of-jail-free card, the thing that they're using to save themselves from scrutiny, Ann, is, oh, no, it wasn't a lab, it was this dastardly wet market. It's like, I think that's actually more, it implicates them more than exonerates them, that it came from the wet market.
And the lab argument, as I say in the column, it just reminds me of the argument for Iraq and Afghanistan. Oh, they're just like us. They just have horrible leaders. We need to liberate them. We'll be greeted with flowers and chocolate and cheering. And, 20 years later, no, it turns out they're not just like us. The Afghans are rabid, enthusiastic pederasts, and our troops were instructed not to do anything about it. I wish the rest of the world luck, but I don't want them coming here. We have enough. Love immigrants. They're already here. Very happy to have you here, but let's shut it down now. I don't want them coming here, and I don't want them making all of our stuff, and I don't want us fighting wars to, quote, liberate them, because, they're just like us. They just have bad leaders.
See, one man's politically incorrect is another man's truth, and I appreciate hearing you deliver the truth always. Ann Coulter, great talking to you as always. Stay safe there. Keep your mask on.
Yeah. You too. Bye-bye.